Mark Rogers TV on the greatest coach in NFL history. A number of media outlets are currently running this series, one publication that we know of, and two television networks, inviting the fans to make their votes, but also selecting a panel or committee to select number one through whatever. Okay, we certainly invite your comments, as we always do right here on Mark Rogers TV. Would love to hear your take, your analysis on the great coaches in NFL history. We give you one: Tom Landry, head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, 1960 to 1988. So if you're under a certain age, you're probably not too familiar with anything besides the old NFL films footage and the records. Okay, the numbers are astounding, but then we're going to make our case a little bit later beyond the records and the numbers, because we know that those are controlled by other people as well. Winning is what it's all about, bottom line, but there are other factors to take into consideration. Okay, the guy won 250 games. He won 20 postseason games. That's a record in NFL history. Also an NFL record, 20 consecutive winning seasons. So personnel changed. Landry did not. The system did not. He continued to win 20 consecutive winning seasons. And actually the season in which that was broken, 1986, the Cowboys were off to a 6-2 start. Danny White, their quarterback, got hurt. He was leading the league in passing, broke his wrist. Cowboys tumbled to 1-7 under a inexperienced Steve Pallor at quarterback. So that record could have continued, but still 20 consecutive winning seasons may never be broken. Tom Landry got his team to 13 conference championships. 13 conference championship games. Think about that, from 1968 to 83. The Cowboys went to 11 conference championship games in 14 years. That's unheard of, staying that competitive, being on the brink of the Super Bowl almost every year for 14 years. We see Belichick getting close to that type of standard, but still, he hasn't gotten to that many conference championship games, and certainly that has been unmatched at this point in NFL history. Those are pretty much the records that need to be lined up. Now let's delve a little bit deeper, because the one mark on Tom Landry's legacy that probably takes away from him being considered maybe number one, versus he's probably typically viewed by experts to be in that 5 to 6 range, is a 2-3 record in the Super Bowl. Okay, let's clarify here the Super Bowl games in which they were played, and then really look at Landry's legacy past that in terms of innovation, because that's where he made his mark. Okay, 2-3 in the Super Bowl. Prior to the Super Bowl, the two NFL championship games prior to the Super Bowl being played were the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers in 66 and 67. So we're talking about Landry's young, up-and-coming Cowboys playing maybe the greatest team of all time, Vince Lombardi's Packers. They lost the first game when Don Meredith threw an interception in the end zone to tie the game on the last play of the game. They lost the second game in the famous Ice Bowl situation, of course, Bart Starr from 1 yard out to win at 21-17. So the up-and-coming Cowboys lose two heartbreakers to maybe the greatest team in NFL history. Okay, now we move into the Super Bowl era. The first Super Bowl that Landry coached in was 1971 against the Colts. Colts win it on a last-second field goal, 16-13. What led to the game-winning field goal was a deflected pass. Of course, the coach cannot control that. And what's really interesting and has been buried in NFL history was something that was uncovered by NFL Films, 10 or 20 years ago. It's a really interesting piece in which they show that there was a fumble in the end zone in this game. The Cowboys recovered for what should have been a touchdown. They gave it to the Colts. The officials gave the ball to the Colts. Cowboys would have won the game. Instead, losing a last-second field goal, 16-13. Next year, Landry's Cowboys defeat Don Shula and the Dolphins 24-3, and of course that Dolphins team went undefeated the next year and won 2 consecutive Super Bowls, so Landry defeats one of the best teams in NFL history in 1972. All right, skip ahead to 1978. Cowboys dominate the Broncos 27-10, 7 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, 4 interceptions, dominant defensive effort by Doomsday, and Cowboys win it over the Broncos. Now let's look at the two games that maybe, I don't want to say tarnish his legacy because he got to a Super Bowl again, but probably, again, move him from number 1 to maybe 5 or 6. And those are the two Steelers Super Bowls, 76 and 79. Cowboys take the Steelers to the brink. And again, we're talking about Tom Landry's teams playing the best in history. The Packers, the Dolphins, the Steelers. And in this case, what's arguably the greatest football team of all time. They lose to the Steelers 21-17. We're throwing the ball in the end zone to try to win the game late. Same thing in 79, 35-31. So they take the Steelers to the brink in games in which a lot of historians say there was more talent on the field than in any point in NFL history in those two games. So Landry goes 2-3 in the Super Bowl. The second matchup, questionable calls. I won't go into them. I could talk forever on those questionable calls, but so bad that the NFL sent a letter to the Dallas Cowboys a couple weeks after the Super Bowl, after reviewing the game tape, to say, our badly officiated game. Okay, where Landry really stands out is in terms of innovation. Look at the 1950s New York Giants, the famed coaching staff of Lombardi coaching the offense, Landry the defense. Well, when they split, Lombardi took Landry's 4-3 defense to Green Bay. Landry did not take Lombardi's offense to the Dallas Cowboys. He didn't want to take the 5 plays that Lombardi drew up and take them to Dallas. What he did was he innovated his own offense, and we still see it in the NFL today. He developed the shotgun. For NFL fans that are younger, if you would watch some old films of the 70s and 80s, nobody ran the shotgun for years and years and years except the Dallas Cowboys. Tom Landry, innovation of the shotgun. A lot of teams caught up later, and now it's standard in the NFL. Also, motions and shifts. Tom Landry looked at the rule book. He noticed that there was nothing that prohibited a team from shifting in the backfield and running motion offense. That completely fooled everybody for years until other teams adopted that and caught up. So what you see in regards to shifts and motion in the backfield right now in the NFL, Tom Landry was the first. And we haven't even gotten to his biggest innovation, and that's the 4-3 defense. So the defense that was instituted by Landry and developed and created by Landry in the 50s for the next 50 years became the standard in the NFL. The 3-4 may be a little bit more prevalent now, but the 4-3 defense to get pressure on the quarterback and to clog up the running lanes with 2 defensive tackles, that was devised by Tom Landry. So you got Lombardi and Landry off that staff. Who innovated more? Lombardi won, incredibly, 5 NFL championships with one team, but again, he did it with one personnel group. It was the same team over and over. It was Starr, it was Nitschke, it was Forrest Gregg, it was Jerry Kramer, it was Willie Davis. All those guys played. Once their run was over, Jim Taylor, Paul Hornung, it was done for the Packers. Landry turned over personnel and continued to win. And he also innovated all over the place. Consider that, the 4-3 defense created by Tom Landry. Did I really miss anything? Took some notes here. I think I got to everything that I wanted to run down with Tom Landry. But the coaching legacy is amazing beyond the wins and losses. Now I would love to hear from you and your take on the greatest coach in NFL history right here on Mark Rogers TV.